My son locked me in memory care and sold my house. But the $280,000 cottage he stole from his daughter became his trap. My son had me declared mentally unfit on a Monday morning. By Friday, he had put my house under contract, listed my granddaughter's cottage, and used the silver pen I gave him for law school to sign the order that locked me behind a memory care door. The funny part was, I wasn't confused. I was waiting. Daniel always did underestimate old men. Most ambitious sons do. They see gray hairs, slow hands, a cane beside the chair, and they start mistaking patience for weakness. That was his first mistake. His second was thinking I had taught him everything I knew. Daniel walked into my kitchen that Monday with coffee in one hand and paperwork in the other. He wore the same clean smile he used on judges, widows, and people too polite to ask where their money went. Behind him stood Marlene, his wife, folded into a cream-colored coat like a woman auditioning to be innocent. Doctor. Calvin Price stood by the back door, looking at my cabinets instead of my face. That was how I knew. This was not a family visit. This was a raid. Dad, Daniel said, setting the coffee in front of me, we need to talk about your care. Care, a beautiful word, soft enough to tuck a knife inside. I looked at the cup, 2 sugars, no cream, the way I drank it before Evelyn started watching my blood pressure like it owed her money. You remembered, I said. Daniel smiled. I remember the important things. No, he didn't. He remembered useful things. There's a difference. I picked up the coffee and let the smell reach me first. Bitter, not just coffee bitter, something underneath, dry, medicinal. I touched it to my tongue, just enough, then I swallowed. Not because I trusted him, because a thief relaxes when he sees the lock turn. Daniel watched my hand. Marlene watched my eyelids. Dr. Price watched the cup. 3 people pretending not to watch the same thing can tell you plenty if you know how to sit still. What kind of care? I asked. Daniel sat across from me. Navy suit, silver tie clip I bought him when he graduated law school. In his jacket pocket was the pen. My pen, sterling silver, engraved with his initials. I had bought it with 2 weeks of overtime because Evelyn said every son should have one thing from his father that made him stand taller. Years later, he would use it to sign away my freedom. Dad, he said, you've been forgetting things. I forgot your birthday once in 1998. You've been collecting interest ever since. Marlene's mouth tightened. Daniel kept smiling. You left the stove on. No, I didn't. You missed 2 bank appointments. I canceled them. You called Rebecca at 2 in the morning. Rebecca called me at 1:58, crying about her husband's debt. Dr. Price cleared his throat. Harold, nobody is accusing you. Doctor, when a man brings forms into my kitchen, the accusation already has shoes on. Daniel leaned forward. That was his courtroom move. Close the distance. Lower the voice. Become reasonable. Make the other person look emotional for breathing too loudly. We're worried about you. No, I said. You're hoping I'm worried about myself. His eyes changed, just for a blink. There he was, not my son, the operator, the man who had already made the decision and came only to collect my surrender. Marlene placed a hand on my shoulder. I looked at her fingers until she removed them. You've been under so much stress since Evelyn passed, she said. People loved using my dead wife as a hallway. Evelyn had been gone 8 months, long enough for people to stop bringing food, not long enough for the house to stop waiting for her. Her blue cardigan still hung over the bedroom chair. Her reading glasses still sat on the windowsill above the sink. Her slippers were still under the bed, toes pointed toward morning, like she might step into them if I woke early enough. And beside our house sat the little cottage. 2 bedrooms, peeling white paint, bad roof, good bones. Cost me $280,000. Almost everything I had liquid after Evelyn, and I sold a small patch of land we had kept for old age. I didn't buy that cottage for myself. I bought it for Lily, Daniel's daughter, my granddaughter. One safe door, that was Evelyn's phrase. 6 months before she died, she lay in our bedroom, thin as paper, skin blue around the wrists, voice so faint I had to bend close to catch it, but her eyes were still clear. Evelyn's eyes were always clear. She watched Lily through the window one afternoon. Daniel was in the yard correcting the girl's posture, Her college plans, the way she answered him, the way she held her phone, the way she laughed too loud at something I had said. Lily was 15. Still young enough to think control was attention if it came from a parent. Evelyn knew better. She reached for my hand. "That child may need one safe door in this family," she whispered. So I bought the cottage. I fixed the roof, replaced the furnace, put in new locks, painted the reading room pale green, because Lily once told Evelyn green made her feel quiet inside. I put Evelyn's brass lamp on a little table beside an armchair and 2 bookcases along the wall. Then I put the cottage into a separate trust with Arthur Bell, an old lawyer mean enough to outlive everyone he disliked, which meant he might live forever. The cottage would remain in trust until Lily came of age. The key was not ownership yet. It was permission to breathe. I did not tell Daniel. That was generous of me. And stupid. Daniel found out anyway. Of course he did. A lawyer who wants money can smell a deed through a brick wall. The first time he mentioned it, he acted proud. "Dad," he said, standing in my kitchen with a folder under his arm. "That cottage was actually smart. First thing you've done in years that thinks about the next generation." I heard the compliment. I missed the appetite. That is what grief does. It lowers the lights. You stop seeing the man measuring your windows. That Monday morning, when Daniel brought coffee and concern, I already knew he wanted the house. But when Marlene's eyes slid toward the kitchen window and landed on the cottage, I knew they wanted that too. The house was greed. The cottage was something uglier. That was the door Evelyn had built for Lily, and Daniel was already reaching for the lock. By Friday, I was inside Willowmere Senior Living. Private facility, soft carpet, fake flowers, locked doors, smiling staff. The kind of place that smells like lemon disinfectant and old people trying not to be trouble. They took my wallet. They took my belt. They took my phone for safekeeping. A nurse half my age explained meal times to me slowly, with that bright, careful smile people use when they think kindness means making you smaller. Daniel stood beside her, one hand on my shoulder. "Just until you stabilize, Dad." I looked at his hand. Same fingers Evelyn kissed the day he was born. Same hand I held crossing streets. Same hand that signed the petition saying I was no longer fit to manage my own affairs. I could have shouted. I could have thrown a chair. I could have given him exactly what he needed. Instead, I blinked slowly and asked, "What time is lunch?" Daniel's shoulders relaxed. There it was. Victory. He thought he had buried me alive. He did not realize he had locked himself in the graveyard with the one man who knew where all the bodies were. The first 2 days, I gave them what they paid for. Confusion. Fatigue. A harmless old man drifting through pastel hallways. I asked where the dining room was 3 times, though I had memorized every exit by breakfast. I dropped my spoon and watched which nurse bent down first. I let my hand tremble when Dr. Price visited. I looked at family photographs and pretended to forget Rebecca's son's name. But I did not swallow the pills, not all of them. I tucked the new white tablet under my tongue, coughed into a napkin, and folded it away. Old trick. I learned it from a woman in 1986 who poisoned 2 husbands and never swallowed anything she didn't open herself. Terrible woman. Useful habits. By the 3rd night, I knew 3 things. 1. My medication had been changed before the court order was finalized. 2. Daniel had access to my room whenever he wanted. 3. Someone had placed a listening device under the wall outlet beside my dresser. Cheap thing. Tiny red light. Daniel was good with contracts, not wires. That night, Lily came after visiting hours. She slipped in wearing a gray hoodie, jeans, and fear she was trying to fold small enough to hide. She locked the door behind her. "Grandpa," she whispered, "Dad is selling the cottage." I said nothing. Silence can be cruel to a child, but it can teach her how serious the room has become. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a rusted metal box. My chest tightened. Evelyn's sewing box. Not the pretty one with thread and buttons, the old one. The one with the dent in the lid from when Daniel knocked it off the porch railing with a baseball bat and blamed Rebecca. "Where did you get that?" I asked. "Grandma's sewing room. That room was locked." "I know. How did you open it?" She swallowed. Grandma hid the key in the hem of her blue cardigan. I found it when Mom was throwing her clothes into trash bags. Marlene, of course. A woman like that could fold a dead woman's sweater and call it practical. I glanced at the wall outlet. The red light stared back. I raised one finger to my lips. Lily froze. I took the notepad beside my bed and wrote, "We are being recorded." Her face went white. Then she took the pen and wrote, "I saw the red light. I wasn't sure." I looked at her for a long moment. 15 years old, afraid of her father, afraid for me, and still smart enough not to say truth out loud in a dirty room. Daniel had blood in that girl, but Evelyn had her spine. I turned toward the outlet and let my mouth slacken. "Evelyn," I said loudly, "is that you?" Lily stared at me. I widened my eyes just enough. She understood. "Grandpa," she said carefully. "It's me, Lily." "I had a dog named Lily once," I muttered. "Bit the mailman." For 20 minutes we gave Daniel a show. A fading old man, a worried granddaughter. Nothing useful, nothing angry, nothing a judge could quote. But while my mouth wandered through nonsense, my hand wrote war. Photograph everything. Call Arthur Bell from a school phone. Do not confront your father. Do not eat or drink anything at home if it tastes wrong. Hide the box where your father cannot search without witnesses. Then I wrote, "If your father asks whether you want the cottage, say no." Lily stared at me. Her hand tightened around the pen. I wrote beneath it, "Not forever. For bait." Her eyes changed. Not fear, understanding. That hurt worse. Children should not have to understand bait. Then I wrote one last line and underlined it twice. "Do not be brave in front of a man who uses love as a leash." Lily read it. Then she wrote back, "Too late." I almost smiled. Almost. Inside Evelyn's box were bank statements, medical records, a cassette tape, a copy of the Cottage Trust, an unsigned police report, and a letter addressed to me, Harold. Evelyn's handwriting. Thin, shaky, still hers. I opened it. The first line said, "If Daniel tries to sell the house, don't just stop him. Tell them what you did for him first. Some names do not age. They sit in the dark with their hands folded, waiting for you to stop pretending." Samuel Reed was one of them. Daniel was 19 when he hit Samuel with his car. Rainy night. Too much bourbon. Bad curve. Samuel was 26, construction worker, married, baby daughter at home. Daniel called me before he called 911. I was a detective then, not the television kind. No dramatic coat, no clever music, just long hours, bad coffee, worse men, and paperwork that could save or bury depending on whose hand held the pen. When I arrived, Daniel was shaking so badly his teeth clicked. "Dad," he said, "please." A son gets to say that kind of please once. A weak father obeys it. I made calls. I moved time. I moved blame. A witness statement got misplaced. A patrolman remembered the weather wrong. A blood test arrived late. Daniel got a reduced charge. Samuel Reed got a wheelchair. His baby daughter got a father who came home from the hospital with dead legs and quieter eyes. I told myself I saved my son. Evelyn told me I had only taught him that consequences were for people without powerful fathers. I told her she was wrong. A man will argue with prophecy if it arrives too early. The morning after Lily brought the box, Daniel came with coffee again. I let him watch me push it away. His eyes dropped to the cup. Small movement. Fast. Guilty. "You don't want coffee?" he asked. "Tastes like paperwork." He laughed softly. "You're sharp today." I save a few good hours for disappointing my children. He sat beside the bed. No Marlene, no doctor. Daniel came alone when he wanted to feel taller. "You saw Lily." "Did I?" "She's upset." Children get upset when their fathers sell things that don't belong to them. His smile thinned. "The cottage is dead equity." "That cottage is Lily's. That cottage is a fantasy Mom put in your head." Wrong. Evelyn had put plenty in my head. Mercy. Patience. The idea that a man could be strong without making the house flinch. I failed most of those lessons. But not this one. Daniel leaned closer. "Dad, Lily needs tuition. Connections. A real future. Not a dusty little house full of grandma's lamps and your guilt. She needs a door you don't own." That hit. I saw it. He recovered fast. Good lawyer. Bad son. "You always did this," he said. "You turned property into morality. Money into memory. A house into a shrine. And you turned theft into vocabulary. It's not theft if I'm protecting the family." "The family from what?" His eyes hardened. From you. There it was. Not money, not entirely. Daniel wanted the estate, yes. He wanted debt relief. He wanted control. But more than that, he wanted to turn the whole family history into a legal argument where I was the villain and he was the responsible adult cleaning up my wreckage. That made him more dangerous. A greedy man stops when he is paid. A righteous thief keeps digging until he finds a halo. You taught me something once, he said. I taught you many things. You ignored the decent ones. You taught me paper beats memory. I looked at him. It does. His mouth twitched. But only if the paper is real, I said. For the first time, he stopped performing. Half a second. Enough. He had forged something himself. Not Marlene. Not Dr. Price, Daniel. Good. I needed his fingerprints on the knife. Arthur Bell arrived that afternoon, pretending to be my cousin. Arthur was 81, thin as a fence post, with silver hair combed straight back and eyes like an unpaid tax bill. He disliked me. That was why I trusted him. Men who like you too much start editing the truth. Arthur opened Evelyn's box and read for 40 minutes. No words. Lawyers are the only people who can make silence feel expensive. Finally, he tapped the Cottage trust. Your wife locked this tighter than a bank vault. She had practice. She was married to me. He ignored that. No sale, transfer, refinance, demolition, or liquidation without independent consent. Mine while I'm alive. Then a court-appointed independent guardian for Lily until she reaches age. Daniel doesn't know. Daniel read the deed, not the trust addendum. Arrogant. Very useful in this case. What about the main house? Messy. Emergency guardianship. Dr. Price's evaluation. Statements from Marlene and Rebecca. But if the transfer authorization is forged, and if he tried to move the cottage despite this clause, he did. You know that? I watched his eyes. Arthur sighed. That is not evidence. No, that is weather. Evidence comes after. It came. Slowly, quietly. Good traps are not built with noise. Lily photographed documents from Daniel's office while pretending to look for college brochures. A nurse named Carla slipped me my medication chart after I told her exactly which pill was making my tongue numb. Good nurses hate bad doctors more than patients do. Arthur found the hospital record from the afternoon. I supposedly signed the transfer papers. I was in the emergency department for low blood pressure and dehydration. Security footage showed me there. A handwriting expert found the forgery. Wrong pressure, wrong slant, wrong hesitation before the W. Daniel had copied my signature from an old insurance form. But he missed the tiny break in my H that started after I broke my hand arresting a drunk with a tire iron in 1994. Never forge a signature from a man who spent 31 years reading dead men's handwriting. Then came Marlene's shell company. Clean name, clean filings, dirty purpose. It had an option to buy the main house and the cottage. Behind it was a development group. Behind that was Willowmere Senior Living. They planned to tear down Evelyn's garden and build a luxury memory care wing. Private suites, premium dining, a courtyard with roses. That almost made me admire Daniel. Not because it was smart, because it was obscene with zoning permits. My son was going to build a place for old people to disappear on the bones of the home he stole from me. And he was going to call it progress. Daniel tightened the cage when he sensed movement. He restricted Lily's visits. He told staff I became agitated after seeing her. He scheduled a cognitive evaluation with Dr. Price and 2 witnesses from Willowmere. He had Marlene bring my clothes from home in trash bags. She came herself for that. Walked into my room carrying Evelyn's blue cardigan like it was laundry from a stranger. I thought you might want this, she said. The cardigan was folded wrong. Evelyn always folded sleeves inward. Marlene had folded them across the front, like tying arms over a chest. I said nothing. She placed it on the chair. Then she looked around my room, at the thin blanket, the plastic water cup, the television bolted to the wall. It really is better this way, she said. Sentiment is expensive, Harold. Someone had to be practical. I picked up the cardigan after she left and folded the sleeves inward. Then I placed it under my pillow like a fool. That was the first time I decided Marlene would not merely be exposed. She would be remembered. People like her fear poverty. They fear prison. but mostly they fear being seen clearly. The cognitive test came 2 days later. Daniel sat in the corner, pretending not to control the room. Dr. Price asked me the date. I gave him yesterday's. He asked who the president was. I named one from 20 years ago. Daniel lowered his eyes, hiding satisfaction. Then Dr. Price asked me to remember 3 words. Apple, table, penny. I repeated them wrong. Orange, chair, nickel. Daniel almost smiled. Then, while Dr. Price wrote, I looked at Daniel and said, "Funny thing about nickels, the mint mark tells you where they were made. Paper does too, if you know which notary stamp to read." Daniel's pen stopped moving, only for a second. He knew exactly what I was saying. The room heard confusion. Daniel heard threat. That is how you use a listening room. Give the audience fog. Give the criminal weather. The next morning, they moved me to the secured memory care wing. 72 hours of observation. That was the official phrase. Locked door. No personal phone. No visitors without approval. A bracelet on my wrist that triggered an alarm if I walked too close to the exit. A cage is still a cage, even when your son pays extra for the curtains. The nurse in the secured wing did not know me. To her, I was a chart with shoes. She placed the white pill on my tongue and waited. Not beside me, in front of me, watching my mouth like I was 5 years old and hiding candy. There are many ways to make an old man small. Taking his belt is one. Watching his mouth after medicine is another. I coughed hard, knocked the paper cup off the tray, and let water spread across the floor. When she bent to grab towels, I pushed the pill into the seam of the blanket. She scolded me for making a mess. I apologized like a harmless old fool. By then, the pill was gone. Daniel visited that evening. He stood outside the interior glass door and spoke through the wall phone like we were in a prison movie made by cowards. "Dad," he said, "this is what happens when you make people worry." I looked at the camera above his head. Then I looked at him. "You finally got yourself a cage, son. Shame you had to put me in it to feel safe." His jaw tightened. "You're not helping yourself. I'm helping you get comfortable." "With what?" "Winning." He frowned. I smiled. Old men do not need many teeth to make a son uneasy. Those 72 hours were not wasted. I learned the staff rotation. I learned which nurses followed charts and which ones followed instincts. I learned that Carla worked doubles, drank terrible vending machine coffee, and had a brother who had been over-medicated in a facility upstate after a stroke. People help when the truth touches a bruise they already have. Carla found the hidden pill while changing my bedding. She looked at it, then at me. I did not speak. Neither did she. The next day, she brought me the medication chart folded inside a crossword puzzle. "Don't make me regret this," she whispered. "Carla," I said, "I'm old enough to regret for both of us." She almost smiled. Almost. After the secured wing, Daniel took Lily to the cottage. I did not see it happen. Lily told me later. That made it worse. Some things hurt more when you have to build the scene in your own head. Daniel parked in front of the cottage while 2 men in work boots measured the porch and marked the ground with orange paint. The door had a new lock. The brass key Lily wore around her neck no longer fit. Evelyn's lamp had been carried out in a cardboard box, along with the green armchair chair cushion and a stack of books from the reading room. Lily stood on the walkway and watched strangers measure her escape. Daniel said, "Your grandfather didn't buy this because he loved you. He bought it because he didn't trust me." Lily looked at the changed lock. "Maybe those are the same thing now. That was my girl." Daniel's face went cold. He held out his hand. "The key." "No, Lily." She took the chain from around her neck and placed the useless key in his palm. He closed his fingers over it. "Children don't get exits from their parents," he said. "Parents decide when doors open." One of the workers lifted Evelyn's brass lamp from the box. "This old thing going too?" Marlene, standing near the porch in sunglasses, said, "Throw it out. It's just a lamp." Just a lamp. That woman had a gift for making murder sound like housekeeping. Later, when no one was watching, Lily took the cracked lampshade from the trash and hid it under her coat. She brought it to me 2 days later. The shade was split down one side. I ran my thumb along the tier. Evelyn had read beside that lamp every winter evening for 23 years. She said it was just a lamp, Lily whispered. She's right, I said. Lily looked hurt. I handed the shade back to her. Which means she won't understand why we keep it. That helped. Not enough. But enough. My son did not just steal his daughter's door. He made her sign a paper saying she had never wanted one. He sat Lily at the kitchen table that night, with Marlene standing by the sink, and a printed statement between them. It said, Lily Whitaker did not want the cottage. It said she believed I was using the property to interfere with her relationship with her parents. It said selling it would support her education and protect family stability. Family stability. Another clean phrase dragged through mud. Lily told me later that Daniel placed a pen in front of her and said, You want to keep visiting your grandfather? Then stop helping him turn you against your own family. Marlene added, Sweetheart, this is how adults protect you from being manipulated. So Lily signed, but she signed Lily E. Whitaker. Not Lillian Evelyn Whitaker, the name she used on every school form, every birthday card, every little note she had ever left on Evelyn's refrigerator. That missing name was not a mistake. It was a scream small enough to survive the room. After the lock-wing transfer, I let Daniel's listening device hear what I wanted him to hear. During a call with Lily, I said, clear as a church bell, Arthur only found the deed. He doesn't have the trust addendum. Then I said it again later, pretending to forget I had said it the first time. Daniel thought he was listening through my wall. He did not understand I had turned the wall into a mouth. Within a day, the buyer's attorney received a correction opportunity from Arthur's office. Boring language, long paragraphs, a harmless-looking document suggesting that a minor defect in the cottage paperwork could be cured if Daniel, acting as guardian, acknowledged the beneficiary structure and authorized liquidation. Daniel signed it in 6 hours. No call, no caution, no reading. A man running toward money does not count the steps. Arthur brought me the copy. There, he said, that moves him from greedy to criminal. I looked at Daniel's signature. Bold, confident, careless, the same way he signed school papers Evelyn used to tape to the fridge. A father's heart is a stupid animal. Even then, part of me remembered the boy before the monster. That is the cruel thing about children. They do not stop being who they were just because they become who they are. Daniel visited Arthur Bell's office 2 days before the dinner. Arthur told me later that my son didn't sit down. Men like Daniel stand when they want the room to feel temporary. You really want to open old files? Daniel asked him. Because my father isn't the only man with fingerprints on Samuel Reed. Arthur looked over his glasses. Daniel, threatening an old lawyer is like kicking a coffin. You may feel strong, but the dead still don't move. No, Daniel said. But their secrets do. That was when Arthur knew Daniel was not panicking. He was hunting too. Rebecca came to Willowmere 3 nights before Daniel's dinner. Not a call this time. In person. She stood in the courtyard outside my room for 10 minutes before she knocked. I saw her through the window. 43 years old. Expensive handbag. Tired eyes. Still standing like a girl outside my study waiting to know if it was safe to come in. Dad, she said. Rebecca. She sat on the chair near the window. Not the one closest to me, I noticed. Old habits keep their own furniture. I hated that house sometimes, she said. That was her opening. Not hello, not how are you. Just the truth, finally too tired to dress up. I know, I said. Her eyes snapped to mine. You knew. I knew you went quiet in certain rooms. You never asked why. No. She looked down. When you got angry, the whole house changed shape. Mom would start cleaning something that was already clean. Daniel would start talking faster. I would disappear. I looked at my hands. There are apologies that arrive so late they feel like trespassing. I thought discipline held a family together, I said. No, Rebecca whispered. Mom did. Discipline just made us listen for your car. I deserve that. Every word. Then why help Daniel? I asked. She laughed once through tears. Because he promised me money. Because Mark's debt was eating us alive. Because I was tired of being afraid of bills. And because. She stopped. Because a part of me thought if the house disappeared, the girl I was inside it would disappear too. That one sat between us. Heavy. Ugly. True. A house can hold ghosts, I said. Selling it doesn't bury them, Rebecca cried, quietly. She always did everything quietly. Daniel says you're going to ruin him. Daniel did not require my help. He says you'll ruin all of us. Maybe all of us were already ruined. We just had furniture. She almost smiled. Then it died. Were you really going to tell them about Samuel Reed? Yes. Why now? Because your mother left me instructions, and if she hadn't. I looked out at the courtyard, at an old man in slippers staring at a locked gate. I don't know, I said. Rebecca nodded. That answer hurt her. It should have. It hurt me too. Arthur came the next day with a file I had not seen in almost 30 years. Samuel Reed. There was a letter inside. Not from Samuel, from his wife, written to the police department after the complaint went nowhere. Arthur placed it on my tray. You should read it before the dinner. I know what I did. No, he said. You know your version. Read hers. So I did. The letter was 3 pages. Most of it was controlled rage, but one line opened my chest and left it that way. My daughter asks why her daddy cannot run anymore, and no one in your department will tell me who decided his pain was worth less than another boy's future. I had seen that daughter once. Grace Reed. Years after the accident, in a grocery store. She must have been 10. She was pushing Samuel's wheelchair while her mother compared prices on canned soup. Samuel had gone heavy by then, not fat, just worn down by sitting in a body that had stopped obeying him. Grace saw me looking. She asked her mother, "Why does that man keep staring at Daddy?" I left my basket in the aisle and walked out. I never told Evelyn. Cowards keep souvenirs too. They just store them where nobody can see. Daniel's dinner came on a Thursday. He called it a family closure dinner. Closure. That word should be illegal in a thief's mouth. He wanted me home one last time before finalizing the sale. He wanted witnesses. He wanted Lily to see me weak. He wanted Rebecca to stay afraid. He wanted Dr. Price to nod if I stumbled. He wanted Marlene in cream silk, smiling like a clean knife. He wanted the development man there to make the theft feel inevitable. So I gave him everything he wanted. I arrived in a wheelchair, didn't need one, used it anyway. People reveal more when they think your legs are the problem. Marlene opened the door. "Harold," she said, "you look well." "Marlene," I said, "you lie early. Pace yourself." Her smile cracked. Good. Daniel greeted me in the dining room. My dining room. Evelyn's curtains still hung over the windows. The sideboard still had a faint ring from the Christmas punch bowl in 2009. The floor still creaked in the corner where Lily used to hide during hide and seek, even though every adult in the house knew exactly where she was. The table was beautiful. Liars love presentation. Rebecca sat with red eyes. Dr. Price stood by the fireplace. The development man checked his phone. Lily sat at the far end, hands folded tight, face still. Too still. Daniel had been working on her. Dinner was roast chicken, potatoes, green beans, and poison served politely. Daniel performed mercy. He asked if Willowmere was comfortable. He said. The staff spoke highly of me. He said I was having better days. I dropped my fork once. On purpose. Daniel smiled at the floor. He thought I was fading. After dessert, he stood with a glass of red wine. Every thief eventually gives a speech in the room he thinks he owns. "Dad built this house," Daniel began. "Mom made it beautiful. We all carry memories here. But families have to know when to move forward. Holding on too tightly becomes its own kind of harm." I looked at Lily. She walked into the hall, returned with Evelyn's rusted metal box. She placed it in the center of the table. Small sound, big room. Daniel stopped breathing for half a second. Then the doorbell rang. Arthur Bell entered first. Behind him came Denise Rowland, a bank investigator. Then a woman from Adult Protective Services. Then Officer Grant from the Elder Abuse Unit, young enough to still believe a badge makes people honest. Daniel looked at me. I smiled. Not wide, just enough. "Cloche," I said. Arthur opened his briefcase. He laid out the medication chart. Dr. Price went pale. Then the hospital records. Then security stills. Then the handwriting report. Then Marlene's shell company filings. Marlene reached for her wine and missed the stem. Then the development agreement. The man from the company stopped checking his phone. Then the Willowmere expansion plan. Then the Cottage trust. Then Lily's statement, the one Daniel had made her sign. Arthur placed it beside a stack of Lily's school records, birthday cards, and handwritten notes to Evelyn. Everyone signed Lillian Evelyn Whitaker. The coerced statement said Lily E. Whitaker. Arthur did not explain it loudly. He didn't need to. He just looked at Lily and asked, "Did you choose that signature?" Lily's voice was small. "No." Daniel's face hardened. "She's a child." Arthur looked at him. "Yes, that is the point." Then Arthur tapped Daniel's signature on the attempted override. "You signed this yesterday." Daniel's voice stayed calm. "I sign many documents. Smart men usually read the ones that turn civil disputes into felony fraud." Daniel looked at him. Arthur looked back. "Old lawyers do not blink for sons." Marlene said, "This is ridiculous. We were trying to protect Harold." I turned to her. "Marlene, you tried to protect me the way a butcher protects a pig from old age." Lily made a small sound, almost a laugh. "Good. Even in hell, a child should get one." Denise Rowland placed a printed email beside Marlene's wine glass. Marlene's name at the top. Date stamped 2 weeks earlier. Arthur read it aloud. "The old man won't survive another emotional transfer. Move quickly before Lily complicates the cottage." Nobody spoke. Marlene's face went blank. That was her real face. Not angry, not scared. Calculating whether the next mask would fit. I looked at her. "Receipts," I said. Her fingers tightened in her lap. Marlene finally found her voice. "You think this family survived because of love?" she said. "It survived because someone finally learned to count." I looked at the email with her name on it, then at the bank investigator, then back at her. "No, Marlene," I said. "You counted everything except witnesses." For the first time since I had known her, Marlene had no clean place to put her hands. Daniel placed both palms on the table. "All right," he said softly. "Let's stop pretending." That was his first honest sentence all night. He pulled out a folder, photographs. I knew them before they hit the table, the garage. Me younger, bigger, angrier. Daniel with a split lip, bruises on his arm. Evelyn standing between us, crying. Rebecca flinched. Lily looked at the pictures, then at me. Daniel's voice sharpened. "You want to talk about abuse? Let's talk about who he was before age made him convenient. He ruled this house. He scared his children. He made Mom apologize for him. He thinks being old makes him innocent." The room went quiet. That was Daniel's strongest weapon. Not a lie, a partial truth. Partial truths are more dangerous than lies because decent people hesitate before cutting them down. I did not hesitate. "Yes," I said. Daniel blinked. He expected denial. I gave him confession. "I was hard," I said. "Harder than any father had a right to be." I made rooms go quiet. I called fear respect because it let me sleep. Rebecca began to cry. Not for me. Maybe not for Daniel. Maybe for the children we had all been. I looked at Lily. "And the first crime your father ever learned to survive, he survived because I helped him." Daniel's face changed. There it was. Fear, not of prison, of exposure without control. I told him about Samuel Reed, the rain, the bourbon on Daniel's breath, the call before 911, the report I bent, the witness I let drift, the charge I softened, the man who spent the rest of his life paying for my love. Nobody interrupted. Even Daniel knew better. Then Arthur laid down the letter from Samuel Reed's wife. I read one line aloud because I deserved to hear it in my own mouth. "My daughter asks why her daddy cannot run anymore, and no one in your department will tell me who decided his pain was worth less than another boy's future." Lily looked down. Rebecca covered her mouth. Daniel stared at the table. For once, none of us had anywhere clean to stand. I placed Evelyn's letter beside it. "Your grandmother knew," I told Lily. "She knew what your father did. She knew what I did. And she left instructions." My voice nearly broke there. Nearly. "She said I could not save you with the same kind of lie that ruined him." Daniel laughed. Ugly sound. "So that's your performance, confess and become noble?" "No," I said. "Confess and become useful." Then Denise laid down Evelyn's medical account statements. 3 withdrawals. Daniel's name. Evelyn's treatment fund. The room went cold. Marlene closed her eyes. Rebecca whispered, "No." Daniel said nothing. Lily stood slowly. Her chair barely made a sound. She looked at her father. "Did Grandma know you took her treatment money?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, looked at me, looked at Marlene, looked at the papers. He had words for judges, words for clients, words for grieving relatives, words for theft, but not for his daughter, not for that question. His silence did what no court could have done in that moment. It made him naked. "I was going to use the cottage money for your future," he finally said. "Weak. Too late." Lily looked at him with Evelyn's eyes. "No," she said. "Grandpa already did. You were just selling it." That was the cleanest cut of the night. Daniel turned to Rebecca. "Tell them what he was like," he said. "Tell them." Rebecca shook so hard I thought she might be sick. For the first time in my life, Rebecca did not look at me to see if she was allowed to speak. She looked at herself. Then she looked at Daniel. "I was afraid of him," she said. Daniel almost smiled. Rebecca wiped her face with the back of her hand. "But you used that fear to rob him." Daniel sat down. Not because anyone told him to, because something inside him had lost its legs. What followed took months. Real justice is not a hammer. It is paperwork, depositions, subpoenas, ugly chairs, lawyers asking the same question 7 ways to see which version sweats. Daniel was investigated for elder abuse, fraud, forgery, conspiracy, and misappropriation of funds. Marlene's company stopped being invisible. Dr. Price was suspended pending review. Willowmere released a statement about patient dignity, which is how institutions wipe blood off polished shoes. Rebecca lost her inheritance. I wrote her one letter. "You did not steal the house. You opened the door and looked away. I know something about doors. I left one open for Daniel once. A man lost the life he was supposed to have on the other side of it." She did not answer. Maybe someday. Maybe never. As for me, the Samuel Reed case came back into the light. Too old for some charges, not too old for shame. My name went into articles. Former detective admits misconduct. Family fraud case exposes decades-old cover-up. Men who once shook my hand at church suddenly became interested in cereal boxes when they saw me at the grocery store. Fair enough. A buried bill had found my address. Arthur found Grace Reed, Samuel's daughter. She was grown now, a teacher, married, 2 children. Samuel had died 6 years earlier from complications tied to the injuries that never stopped collecting interest. I sent the first payment from the Evelyn Whitaker Fund to Grace, not because money fixes anything. Money does not give a man his legs back. It does not return a father to birthday parties he missed while lying in hospital beds. It does not erase a little girl pushing a wheelchair through a grocery aisle while the man responsible pretends to compare soup prices. Grace Reed's letter arrived in a plain envelope. I left it on the kitchen table for 3 days. The first letter from the Reed family I buried. The second one I was too old to hide from. When I finally opened it, there were only 3 sentences. "I don't forgive you, but my father's name is finally in the story. That matters." I read it twice. Then I folded it and placed it beside Evelyn's cassette. Some forgiveness is refused so cleanly it becomes a kind of mercy. Lily stayed away for 26 days. I counted. Old men count what hurts. When she finally came, I was at the cottage, not the main house. I sold that. Couldn't live in it after everything. A young couple bought it. Baby on the way. Dog with one ear flopped down. They looked at the kitchen like nothing bad had ever happened there. Good. Let the house lie to someone kinder. The cottage stayed in trust for Lily. Fresh paint, new roof, Evelyn's brass lamp repaired and back in the reading room, books on the shelves, a key in an envelope, a door, not a cage. The key was not ownership yet. Arthur made sure the law stayed where it belonged. Between Lily and every adult who thought love gave them a right to own her, I was outside digging up one of Evelyn's white rose bushes when Lily walked up. She did not hug me. I did not ask. Forgiveness is not a coin you demand from a child. She stood beside me. For a long while, we listened to the shovel hit dirt. Then she asked, "Did Grandma die because Dad took the money?" I had prepared answers. All of them were cowardly, so I told the truth. She died because her body was tired, because medicine has limits, because life is cruel. Lily looked at me. I kept digging. And because too many people loved your father the wrong way. Her eyes filled. No tears fell. Daniel had stolen even that softness from her for a while. Was he always like this? She asked. I looked toward the main house. No, I said. That's the worst part. I handed her the envelope with the cottage key. She looked at it, then she placed it back in my palm. I closed my fingers around it, or maybe she did. At that age, sometimes the child becomes the adult before anyone is ready. I don't want a door built out of everyone's lies, she said. That one landed where it should. Deep. I nodded. Then I'll hold it until you want it, or until you tell me to burn the whole damn thing down. That almost got a smile. Almost. 3 weeks later, she came back. No announcement, no apology. She stood in the doorway of the cottage reading room and looked at Evelyn's lamp. Then she held out her hand. I gave her the key. She put it on a chain around her neck, not because she had forgiven us, because she had decided the door belonged to her, not to our sins. On my last day in the main house, I walked through every room alone. The kitchen where Evelyn used to dance barefoot, the hallway where Rebecca learned silence, the dining room where Daniel lost the family he tried to liquidate, the stairs Lily used to slide down before adults started correcting her joy. Then I went to my desk. In the top drawer was the silver pen, the one I gave Daniel when he graduated law school, the one he used to sign my cage. I held it for a minute. A foolish part of me still saw the boy in the cap and gown, smiling bright, unruined. A father's love is a stubborn disease. It survives evidence, but survival is not permission. I opened the trash can and dropped the pen inside. No speech, no tears, just metal hitting plastic. A small sound, a final one. Outside, Lily waited by my truck with Evelyn's rosebush in a clay pot. She helped me lift it into the back. Before I started the engine, she asked, "Grandpa?" "Yes, sweetheart? Do you hate him?" I looked at the house, at the windows, at all the years we had mistaken control for protection and silence for peace. "No," I said. "Hate still means you're keeping someone warm inside you. What do you feel?" I started the truck. "Cold," I said, and that was the truth. I thought justice meant making my son pay for what he did to me, but real justice started with the first sin I helped him survive.